Hello all. Today we're going to use the body paragraph guide found in the Ames OWL in order to write a rough body paragraph. Links will be in the description. If you follow the below, you'll have a very short paragraph. Flesh it out with details, examples, personal experience, background, context, whatever your paragraph calls for. You can follow the guide in either the Ames OWL or this week's content folder. Okay, let's start with a sample thesis. The Colorado Parks and Wildlife Commission should enact policies to prohibit the harassment of Canada geese in public parks as a deterrent because we are responsible for reintroducing this species. It's an ineffective solution and there are other options. I've highlighted the last portion because we're going to focus on the third body paragraph, which is reflected here in the third point of the thesis. All right, topic sentence. This is a reason for believing your thesis. So it says, third, in addition to temporary scare tactics, there are more permanent, long-term solutions. Another way that you can tell this topic sentence comes from the third body paragraph is that it's using the transitional word third. Transitional words like also, meanwhile, second, third, however, etc. tell us where we're at in the argument as a whole. All right, introduce evidence number one. So who's speaking? What context should our readers know? This tells us just a little bit of context about who is speaking, and it helps your reader know what's going on and whether your evidence seems credible. So this student used the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, which studies birds at Cornell University, explains that Canada geese, ... So let's see how that fits into the first piece of evidence. So evidence number one, in proper MLA. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology, which studies birds at Cornell University, explains that Canada geese, we're using the attributive tag here, explains. So attributive tags are explains, says, said, claims, states. I'll have a link to attributive tags in the description. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology, which studies birds at Cornell University, explains that Canada geese are particularly drawn to lawns for two reasons. They can digest grass, and when they're feeding with their young, manicured lawns give them a wide, unobstructed view of any approaching predators. Girsa. So you can see we've continued the first sentence into that quote, making sure the grammar makes sense. It's also in proper quotations, and it has a citation at the end. So once we have a quote, we want to discuss the quote. So tell us what it means. How does this evidence support your thesis? Here our student says, our lush landscaped lawns are alluring to these birds, so harassing them will not help drive them away. In order to deter Canada geese permanently, we should focus on responsible landscaping and change the habitat of parks using bushes, shrubs, and fencing to block views. So here I have highlighted the portion that is supporting the thesis directly. Next we can transition to the second piece of evidence. The student here is using the word another to transition. Other words you can use are therefore, moreover, in addition, in contrast, however, meanwhile, also. These are transitional words that are in the link below in the description. So another more permanent solution to deter Canada geese being used is ... Let's see how that moves into the introduction. So who is speaking? What context should we know? Our student says another more permanent solution to deter Canada geese being used is called egg oiling or addling, which the Humane Society says ... So here we have an attributive tag, says, before we move into the quote. Now who's talking? The Humane Society. So let's see how this introduction fits into the second piece of evidence. All right, so which the Humane Society says commonly refers to any process by which an egg ceases to be viable. Eggs can be humanely addled by oiling, removing from the nest, or replacing with dummy eggs. So we have this in proper MLA. The grammar is correct when we are moving from the attributive tag says into the quote, and then we do have a citation as well. All right, next we need to discuss the evidence. Tell your reader what it means and what conclusions can be drawn from the quote. How does it support your thesis? So the student says, this manageable solution causes the eggs to not hatch and therefore the population is controlled for that particular season. Now finally we're going to move to the conclusion sentence. This is something that a lot of students forget to add. So what should we have learned from your body paragraph? Tell your readers what we should have learned. And you can do this in one sentence. You can add more explanation if you'd like as well. This student says, any of these options are much better solutions than harassing wildlife in our parks. Some writers also take the time here to transition to their next body paragraph, and if you are one of those people, go ahead and take that time to do that. All right, so putting it all together, you have a rough paragraph now. You may need to add sentences, words, and phrases in order to flesh it out more. Here, our student added a sentence between the thesis and the introduction to the first piece of evidence in order to smoothly transition. So here is the full paragraph put together, ready to go.